Welcome to Start Before You're Ready, the podcast that proves that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin your journey towards better health and happiness. I'm your host, Kelly Young. Remember, the first step is often the hardest, but it's always worth taking. Hey guys, it's Kelly, and I'm back with another episode of Start Before You're Ready. And my guest today is someone that I enjoy talking to so much. Every time I get a chance to sit down with this person, I feel like I've gained wisdom and perspective. She's been a great source of information for me as a mom. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have her on. But actually, you'll see from our conversation that there's a lot of reasons why. My guest today is Debbie Wolin. She has been a part of the KBC community since November of 2011. So I love the number 11. So 2011. I love that. And she is married to Harry Wolin, who was on the podcast about a month ago, and he had a really, really great episode that everybody enjoyed. And he gave Debbie a lot of shout outs. The two of them are very complimentary to each other. They have a great relationship. That might be something that we talk about too. They love to work out together. But I'm going to go ahead and let Debbie introduce herself. Before I do, I want to let you know that she is a school counselor. She was a school counselor for Fairfax for 26 years and retired, yet not really. She's found her way to Loudoun County now, is still working. She has three beautiful, and when I say beautiful, I mean this family belongs in a magazine. Three beautiful children, Shayna, Jordan and Jacob. And Shayna is in law school right now, and she went to Pitt, and now she's at Duquesne for law school. Jordan is working. He graduated from college, I think last year. No, well, we talked about this in Harry's podcast. They all graduated. They all had a graduation this year, except for Jacob. Jacob's still in school.
Yes.
Okay, Debbie, I told you I wasn't going to talk so much, so let's let you introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I'm definitely honored to be here because I've really enjoyed listening to all of the episodes. I wasn't really a podcast person recently, but once you did Start Before You're Ready and it was familiar faces and things that I wanted to listen to, I started listening and just really enjoyed them. So I'm really honored to be here. So thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that, Debbie.
But yeah, no, I started KBC in wintertime 2011. I actually was working out at Lifetime Fitness, but just on Saturday morning, I would, deal with getting all of the kids there. And it was a whole big production to do that. And nobody really liked it except for me. And so it just seemed to be like a lot of effort for everything we were doing with three small kids. And so when there was another mom on my son's soccer team, Sarah Forrest, who's a KBC legend, invited me to come to a Saturday boot camp. And I recognized you. I knew you from Lifetime. So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, I'll try it out, and was hooked for sure.
Aww.
So really loved it, loved just the community feel. It was like-minded people. It was parents of kids, my kids' ages. And we were all just trying to stay in shape and stay afloat while we were shuttling our kids around and dealing with
Yep.
life. So it was just a very supportive environment and really challenged me physically as well. So
Yeah.
win-win.
Yeah. So you were taking classes at were you taking classes Lifetime
Mhm.
or working out there?
Taking classes.
Okay, so you're a class person already.
Yes.
So you already had that part of it.
Yes.
And the boot camp, the outdoor part that was fine, obviously.
It was fine because I just made it fine. Like, I was in
I mean,
that
back then I didn't. In 2011, that was it. You
that
could
was
come to
it.
boot camp.
And I was in that stage of life where I was gonna work out and do,
Mhm.
whatever I could, whenever I could, because I only
Yep.
had little windows in
Yep.
between being a mom and working. So
Yeah.
I just made it work and just didn't think about it. And
Yeah. So were you doing the Saturday boot camp
Mhm.
only, or did you jump into the weekday classes?
It was Saturday boot camp only.
Okay.
I think the weekday classes, for whatever reason, with the kids just wasn't working for me. I would
Yep.
squeeze in like runs
Yep.
directly after work,
Yep.
just a short 20, 30 minutes. and then I would
Mhm,
get the Saturday class. And then when my school schedule, Fairfax County changed its bell schedule and
mhm.
opened the high school started a little bit later, and that was a game changer for me because I started to be able to come to your weekday early morning classes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think one thing that you've already indicated is you are going to find a way to get a workout in
Mhm,
no matter what, whether
mhm.
whether you're part of a program or not. Where do you think that came from, Debbie?
I think I've always loved exercise.
Okay.
And I think, like most people, I started exercising to keep weight off or stay in shape, especially after having kids. It was important to me. What I realized through consistency in your program was it was so much more than that, and that's just a secondary thing right now. For me
Yeah.
now, it's just part of my routine. It's my mental health. As we talked about before, it grounds me every day
Yeah.
to face what I need to face and to stay positive for my family and for my students and for myself. And I know, like, when things are challenging, that's one thing I have to stick with, and it helps me so much.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just that important to me that I just make it happen.
Yeah. And that's where we want to get all of our students to. That's a goal where it's like I don't feel good if I don't do it and I'm going to establish this routine. But it's hard for most people because they're missing something that you said that you have, which is you like it.
Mhm.
You enjoy exercise.
Right.
So that is our goal with our
Mhm.
students is to get them to like it a little. And maybe they don't like the active physical activity, but maybe they like music or they like people or they like feeling like they belong to something. So we just have to find something to attach them to get
Mhm.
them to keep coming because we know the benefits are beyond just weight loss and even beyond just the health benefits that we get. So right now, Debbie, you one of the things that you well, not so much right now because it's summertime and your schedule's a little bit looser, but during the school year, at least from what I remember, you need to do the 5:15
Mhm.
a.m. class at home. You don't
Yes.
have time to come into the studio, go back home, shower. You need that extra 15
Mhm.
minutes.
Yes.
Um,
I
so
mean, I
so
do have time, but it just makes
oh,
my
okay.
morning smoother.
Okay.
So I do it at home. Sometimes I'll come in, but it just makes it a lot smoother and cuts down on the rushing around in the morning that
Yeah.
I typically
Yeah.
do to get to work.
Yeah, and that's great, and that's why we have that, and that's
Mhm.
probably one of our most attended Zoom classes.
Mhm.
We do offer virtual programming, and some of our people live close enough where they could definitely come into the studio, but it's just that extra time makes a difference. But Debbie is what I would consider well, I consider her more in person, but she is hybrid in that on, like, a Saturday, she well, just this past Saturday, she was out at the parking lot, but usually she comes in and does the 8:30 strength class, that's part of her routine. But she also, during the week when it's hectic, will do it in the morning. And sometimes you come at night too,
Yeah.
or less likely.
Once in a while, I'll come at night. Harry likes to
Okay.
come at night.
Yeah, I know.
I have a very hard time working out in the
Okay.
afternoon.
Okay.
I'll do it,
Yeah.
if there's like, if it's winter contest and there's an
Yeah.
event,
Yeah.
or if Harry's going and I really wanna go with him, but what I love is my morning workout, and it sets me right for the day, and then to come home from work and do a walk, which I view more
Yeah.
as, like, decompressing, stress
Uh-huh.
relief, me time.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your work a little bit, if you don't
Mhm.
mind, Debbie, because as I shared in your introduction, you seem to have a great perspective on young people as a high school counselor, and you've done it for a really long time. I know you're really good at it because I think I don't know the exact name of the award, but I remember when you received one of the most prestigious awards that counselors can receive. Can you tell us a little bit
Um
about that? I know you don't
Sure.
like to talk
Yeah,
about
no,
yourself, but I'm gonna
that was
make
a
you.
while ago. I'm
Yes,
still
but
very proud of it, but
you
it
should
was a
be.
while ago. It was I was honored to receive the, FCPS, Fairfax County Public Schools High School Counselor of the Year award, and then I went on to receive the Virginia State High School Counselor of the Year. And then my supporters at FCPS said, you have to put your name forward for, it's called the American School Counselor Association National Award. So I did, and was a semifinalist for that. So I was really honored, but certainly there's so many great school counselors. So I feel a little uncomfortable with it. Just I was really honored to receive those awards. But yeah, I mean, there's amazing school counselors that I've interacted with, and I'm very much trying to learn from them.
What makes an amazing school counselor? What makes an amazing school counselor?
So when I went into the profession, and I still feel like it's the same, is in high school, it's a time of transition for kids and they need support, whether or not they have all of the resources in the world or they come from a tough family situation or tough environment. They need support because just a time of transition in life. And I feel strongly that the parents need support as well through that. And
Yeah.
so the position that I'm in is I can be that support for those students, whether it's the academic, the social emotional, the college and career. It's a unique position where I can provide support to kids and families and faculty members working with individual students. You're sort of in the middle of it all. So it's a really neat position to be in. And there's a lot that you can do to help kids in that position. So I still feel really lucky to be in that position.
When you're doing your recommendations for colleges and all that, that's obviously a big part of that, but I know it's a lot deeper than that, where
Mhm.
you're very in tune with your students, and when one of your students is struggling, you carry it
Yes.
because that's who
Mhm.
you are as a human being, and I imagine that it is very taxing, and I love that you have your workouts in the
Mhm.
morning. It's one of the things that I like to remind myself, because I do feel that school staff are a very important part of our community, and it makes me feel good, and I know it makes the rest of the team feel good to know we can help pour in to you guys who are going to be giving of yourself all day and trying to get shed light into these students. So if we can like pump you up with a little positive energy in the morning or after work, to decompress, it's a great feeling, because it does
Mhm.
feel like there's that ripple effect of you going into to do the work that you do and having that positive energy, because if you're drained, you
Right.
can't give in such a profound way. So I like to say fitness makes us better at everything. So I know that you having that grounding time and taking care of your physical health has probably played a role in your successful career. And one of the things that I've just personally experienced from you, just listening to you talk to our other mom friends, is not putting as much stress on these kids
Mhm.
as they are already probably putting on themselves. And I really appreciated that. And like I know there's been a couple of moms where I've like, you need to talk to my friend Debbie because she's gonna make you feel better. And what would you say to those moms that need to talk, they need to hear you? What would be
Yeah.
your
I
advice?
love talking to those moms, and I think it's kind of funny because I'm sort of a high stress person and
Yeah.
I'm tasked. I feel like I'm in the position where I'm like trying to calm other parents down, but just from all of my years working with teenagers, I feel like it's going to be okay. There's no need to over stress about, certain things, whether it's a quiz or what's going on in a class. Or again, I don't mean to minimize parents stressing over their children's future because that's normal. But I do know that it's all going to work out and it will work out in the best way that it should, in a way that's right for the individual child. And I feel like we live in an environment, especially in Northern Virginia, where there's a lot of comparison. And you feel like if your child doesn't achieve a certain whatever it is, then it's a reflection on the parent. And there's so much wrapped up into it. I just feel like it's not good for anyone
Yeah.
when we approach it that way. So, I've loved, I do the college process with all of my students every year,
Yep.
and I've loved having conversations with some of the other parents in our community when they get to that point because they've never done it before and it's
Right.
overwhelming and there's so
Yep.
much unknown, which is scary. And I get that because I went through it with my own kids. So even
Yep.
though I do this for a living, of course, when
Yep.
it's your own kid, it's different. And I understand that. So I feel like I'm in a unique position to provide support to the parents for that as well as to the kids. I think if I'm providing support to the parents, then in turn I'm providing support to the student. And so I really like being able to do that.
I love that. Yeah, you're so good at it. Well, one thing I'm just personally curious about, and I hear this from a lot of our school staff, is especially people that have been in the space for a long time, some of the things that maybe things that have gotten worse, things that have gotten better. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, in terms of I feel like kids are kids and a
Yep.
lot has been more the same than people realize. But
Mhm.
what I will say, just over the last 15 years, 10, 15 years, the mental health, the depression and anxiety, I feel like it's just more prevalent. Either that or people are talking about it more and acknowledging
Yeah.
it. Certainly
Yeah.
during the pandemic
Yeah.
was really high, which
Yeah.
is understandable, and I felt like then it came back down to I don't wanna say normal levels because I feel like the
Mhm.
normal level was increasing before the pandemic, but now
Yeah.
it's back to what it was before the pandemic, but I think that goes back to well, there's a lot of things, and I'm certainly not an expert on it, but again, it's the time in the person's life. It's a lot of change. Age 14
Yep.
to 18, there's a lot of
Mhm.
transition, a lot of, figuring yourself out, self-doubt, all sorts of factors that come into play, never mind individual factors that could be going on in someone's life.
Yeah.
So again, that's where I think the role of the school counselor is so critical because
Mm.
be there for the student during the day as they're experiencing these emotions. And like I said, maybe people are talking about it more, which is a really good thing, but it makes it just seem like there's more. But that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that you said that. And I've heard, obviously, one of the things that we hear from teachers in particular is that they're not as respectful and they don't have the same sense of authority maybe
Mhm.
that we potentially had. I don't know. I'm not a school staff member. I've never heard you say that. I think you also stick up for the kids.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I like about
Yes.
you is I kind of do too. I think that they're part of their environment, and then
Hmm.
it's the things that we maybe don't like are no fault of their own because
Right.
we're
Right.
providing it for them,
Right.
and then we're, like, mad that they're this way.
And I feel like I get to see kids more on an individual basis. So the teachers have it very hard because they're
Right.
managing a classroom. And
Sure.
sometimes there's behaviors in a classroom from an individual student that is really challenging. I may know what's going on with the student. And when they come to talk to me, it's a completely different story. But that's where we work together. So I try
Yeah.
and support the student and the teacher and work with the student to be able to be positive and respectful even when they are having a hard time themselves,
Yeah.
where we're all working together. So, and I think this is just true in life, not just with teenagers, but you never know what somebody's dealing with. And
Yeah.
so, someone who's maybe acting out in class could have a lot going on internally,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, and
even
that's
with their
very
family. So,
yeah.
maybe not internally, but you
Yes.
just never know.
Yeah, and that's very fair to say because I know the teachers and school staff that I'm referring to, they love it. They love
Mhm.
their job. They
Mhm.
love their kids. They just say it's really
It's
hard.
hard. It
It's
is.
really, really hard, and
Mhm.
that is hard to know because
Yes.
they're great at what they do, and we
Mhm.
don't wanna lose them.
Mhm.
So that's probably
Yes.
another topic for another day.
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
where I feel like in schools, yes, like a counselor can really help support a teacher if they're dealing with challenges in the classroom from individual students. That's where we collaborate and work together
yeah,
to make it better on both ends.
yeah.
So,
That's great. I love that. Okay, let's go back to
yeah.
fitness, and let's go back to you being in incredible shape. Okay, so you take great care of yourself. You've had the natural drive to be the healthiest version of yourself. I'd say you
Mhm.
optimize your health with not just your workouts, but with your nutrition and with your sleep. And I'd love for you to share maybe some because you mentioned that in the beginning and when you first started with us, it was you were thinking about weight loss. So maybe you were like me and I know in college I ate like pretzels and frozen yogurt because they were fat free. And
Yes.
you know, so we've learned over the
Mhm.
years that there's different ways to approach health. I'd love to just hear maybe some of your top tips that you've learned over time, maybe in since you've been with KBC, so going back maybe 15 years.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've learned is the value of consistency. It doesn't have to be every day, but a
Yep.
consistent approach to fitness is huge. It has been
Yeah.
for me at least. I also think because of KBC, if I hadn't found KBC, I would probably be running every day, which means that I may not be running right now.
I was just gonna say, or you wouldn't be.
Right. So I feel like I can still run at my
Yeah,
age because I do other things through KBC. The strength training, I don't think I would have done strength training the way I'm doing it now just on my own. I wouldn't know how to, and I probably wouldn't have the drive
yep,
to. So the value of the strength training has helped me be able to do other things. And I mean, I know I've had some injuries, but for the most part, I can work out regularly without injury.
for sure.
Awesome for me. And doing something
I
different
think
every day, like, that's what
mm,
ABC provides, like,
mhm,
I just have to show up and do the workout. You
yeah,
guys do all the hard work.
the
It's something
programming or
different every day, which
yep,
keeps it
yep.
interesting and fun, and I think it's also good for good for the body.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Debbie. I don't know if you saw, but yesterday I shared, Athletic Tech News had shared an article, and it's a new trend. I love
Mm,
trends, right?
mhm.
And it's all over TikTok. It's called the 4-2-1,
Oh,
and it's 4 days of strength training, 2 days of cardio, and 1 day of recovery.
mhm,
And I just had to chuckle because I was like, that's just called moving every day and having variety in your routine
mhm,
and making sure you're getting your strength training in. But
mhm.
it's called the 4-2-1 and it's a
Yeah,
new trend and people are jumping on it, but that's what we do. That's what
yeah,
we do. It doesn't mean you need to work out 7 days a week,
right.
right? You could be a walk. So
Mhm,
yes, you should move every day. Yes, you should do something every day. Four days of strength training, that would be somebody like you. 3 to 4 days of strength training, that's an elite fitness level and that's been working out for a long time. I wouldn't tell someone that's new to a program to start with it. I would say minimum two, minimum
mhm,
two. Let's try to get you to three, minimum two. If you can get 4 classes that have the word strength in them, or it's like a Pilates class or something where your muscles will be challenged, that's amazing. But three could work
mhm,
great. Two could
mhm.
work great. One, what we saw back in the day, a
Yeah,
lot of us did one and then just did daily movement on the other days,
right.
and that seemed to work for us. So I love that you mentioned consistency because that is really it's such a boring advertisement. It's just like you just would like when you decide how much you should exercise. When someone says to me when they start, "Well, how many times a week should I come?" And I said, "Well, what can you sustain? What are you
Mhm,
going to be able to keep doing?" Like, okay, right now is August. I just recently, well, you brought me an amazing school staff member, one of your colleagues. I absolutely love
mhm.
her.
Yeah.
Um, but right now it's August, so your schedule's a little bit more flexible. When fall comes, what's that going to look like?
Mhm,
And this is what I hear all the time. And then maybe, well, I'm going to start off coming like 6 days a week, and then no, do
mhm,
not start off coming 2 days a week.
mhm.
Build to three, build to four. If you start off coming six, I bet my life on the fact that I'm not going to see you in
Yeah,
a month.
yeah.
Right? If you're
Mhm,
going from nothing. Now, if you're coming to me from another gym, you're already working out 4 or 5 times a
mhm.
week, okay, do six. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it needs to not be the same thing every day.
Mhm,
That's where I think some of these other modalities get into trouble because it is very like a similar style of workout. And I think that
mhm.
we all know that change equals change. And that's why our team works so hard to diversify our workouts. Like, how can I hit this muscle a little bit different today? Yeah, we're going to do back, legs, chest. arms, yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
do all these things, but how can we hit
Yeah.
it a little bit different is always the goal. And we see that it works. We see it in members like you, Debbie, members that have been training with us and consistently getting stronger, aging backwards. I think that that's really an important message. I also think I know you've made some changes nutritional and in your nutrition.
Yeah, I'm constantly working on that. It's
Yeah,
definitely I don't eat a lot of different things because I'm picky, but I definitely have I don't know how many years, but because you've been pushing it, focusing on protein. I know I can't just eat protein,
right.
to balance it out,
Yeah,
but making sure that I hit protein goals, and some days I'm better than others. I think for me, I sometimes just prefer snacking to eating meals, which I know is bad. Um,
nothing's bad. Hey,
but it
what
doesn't I don't know that that works for me, so when I
I think it
find
works
my
for you.
what's that?
I think it works for you. If you feel energized and you're not, I mean, when you say snacking, I don't think you're eating a bag of chips. I think
No.
you're probably eating like nuts or
Yes.
fruit or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Yes. But I know that I need to focus on making sure that I eat lunch.
Yeah.
It used to be
Yep.
at work where I never did, and I would just have
Yep.
snacks throughout the day. Now I make sure that I bring a healthy, balanced lunch and I eat it, and I'm more intentional about snacks or eliminating some of the snacks that I was having
Yeah.
before so I would eat the lunch as
Yeah.
opposed to just eating the snacks and then not eating the lunch. Things like that.
Right.
So I
That's
could
huge. That's
yeah.
huge. I think prioritizing meals and having your body know like, hey, you're going to get a nice meal in the middle of the day is very helpful. So that's huge.
Yes.
That's huge. And I know that can be hard, especially if you're pulled into a
Mhm,
serious conversation. It just goes through when you're
mhm.
supposed to eat lunch and there's no lunch and
Right,
then
right.
and in so many people's work life that
Mhm,
that can be a challenge. But I personally I feel like if I don't eat lunch at noon, there's such a backfire effect. Because
mhm.
sometimes I will be working on something or, I have a class at noon and I eat later, and I always feel like then I'm not satisfied after I eat.
Mhm.
I don't know why. It's just like my body
Yes.
likes the routine of knowing when to get its food, and when it
Mhm,
doesn't, it gets very nervous. In fact, this morning, I, had to do function I signed up for Function Health, which I wanna talk a little bit about just because I did it today,
mhm,
and I've been researching this for a while, and I had tried to do one of those at-home kits, and it actually didn't even work. One of those ones where they tell you your food sensitivities and that kinda thing. So, I was like, "I
mhm,
need to go to a lab, and I need to have
mhm.
blood drawn." And, of course, I do it at my doctor, and I look at it with a fine-tooth comb, and I try to find out as much information as possible with what they give me. But last time I was there and I was like, I'd be happy to pay extra to do some extra, I'd like to do some extra
Mhm.
testing and to optimize. And they're like, well, what do you mean optimize? I'm like, it'd be the healthiest version of myself. If there's something that I'm lacking,
Right.
deficient nutritionally, or, if my
Mhm,
hormones are off or whatever, like I'd like to know so I can
mhm.
make changes. And anyway, they did not like that at all. That didn't go over well. So, since then, that was September, I've been researching, and then I had 2 people that I really trust, had used this particular company for their testing, and one of them's Todd, and one of my friends from New York. So, I just kinda heard it from them.
Mhm.
So, 4th of July, they had a sale, and that kind of pushed me to do it. So,
Yeah.
anyway, I went today, and you couldn't eat, and it was no big deal. It was 7:40 in the morning. I mean, that should not be a problem not to eat before 7:40. I was sitting in that chair and I felt so awful. I was like,
Oh.
I've actually been sick right now. My
Mhm,
body's so used to wait. I mean, for me, that's a couple hours later. So
mhm.
my body's so used. But then why I'm sharing all this is I came home and I had my normal breakfast, and then like, what else can I eat? I'm still hungry. It's like I wasn't satisfied because I
Right.
went into this mode of like,
The
so that's
timing
why
was
I
wrong.
believe in like having those set times when you eat. For
Mhm.
me, not eating backfires. I know everybody's
Yeah.
different. I'm very driven and I like my meal, but yeah, it backfires. So I love that you found the time to sit down and eat your lunch. And now I know that we shared on Harry's podcast that your husband Harry had a heart attack this year, which was more genetic than anything. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, it's very much genetic, and he does have good habits, but now he's had to dial in
Mhm.
even more, so it's probably affecting, I would imagine, your whole family.
Mm. It is. I mean, he's been really good about, paying attention to his macros and his overall calories and tracking, and he was really, really good about that. And now I think he's found his groove. But yes, I mean, we definitely are talking with the kids more about it. My kids have pretty good nutrition, but I think coming from him, it holds a little more weight than coming from me. Just
Yeah,
growing
you're
up
just the
being
annoying mom.
Yes, just being the mom who was telling them not to eat junk and things like that, and they teased me and called me an almond mom and things like that.
I never heard
I didn't
an
really know
almond
what it
mom?
meant, but then I looked
Like,
it up
instead of
and
Cheez-Its, you give 'em almonds?
yeah, and just yeah,
Okay.
just always and I mean, I feel like I allowed them to have a lot of treats, so
Oh,
I get
sure.
defensive and sometimes I don't wanna overdo it with them. And now they're all young adults and making their own decisions. And, one of the things I'm most proud of is that they all have pretty good healthy habits. I mean, nobody's perfect, including me, but they pay attention to their
Yeah,
nutrition and to working out. And, that's one of the things that I'm most proud of as a parent. And then with Harry, I didn't want to be like a nagging wife every time
right.
he went to take something that was a treat. So the fact that he's dealing with it on his own and taking it really seriously is a good thing. Not that he didn't
Yeah,
before. I mean, he
he
was
did.
yeah, he did, which
Mhm.
was one of the most shocking and upsetting things to me about his heart
Right.
attack and the need for the bypass surgery is I just couldn't believe it because he had good habits. And so when they come and talk to you, the doctors talk to you about, what you should be eating and how you should be exercising, I felt like I was like, well, but he did all of that. I felt
Yep,
defensive about it. Like, how did we get here? But you're right. It was a lot of it was genetics, not that the other factors don't come into play, but
sure,
um,
sure. I think the other factors came into play with his recovery,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. With his strength, with just like he
Mhm.
talked about when he was able to stand right up and he
Mhm.
the PT was like, "Well, you don't
Yeah.
need the walker." I mean, that's where the building the muscles around your
Mhm.
joint makes such a big difference, and
Mhm.
having that functional strength makes such a big difference. And even, let's face it, like, if he did have to make some changes afterwards, he was already familiar with macros. Some people don't
Mhm.
know a macro
Right.
is. A lot of people will tell me I don't eat carbs, and they're like, "I just eat a lot of fruits and vegetables." I'm like, "Okay, well, those are carbs."
Mhm.
They don't understand what a carb is or what
Mhm.
a and it's not, trust me, if I walk into your profession, I wouldn't understand how to count. Like, it's tricky. There's a lot to it, but I think he had a lot of knowledge, so when he had to dial it in afterwards, it
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, yeah, I know, I don't always do that, but yeah, I get that.
Right.
That's."
He had had
Mm,
so much education on it just from the KBC community, the winter contests. We'd done
yep,
nutrition
yep,
classes and, he already
yep,
knew a lot about it, which was so helpful. And we felt like we had all the resources in the community, which made it so much less overwhelming. At that time,
mhm,
everything seems overwhelming, but I feel like
yeah,
we didn't have to go out and find a nutritionist and find an
mhm,
exercise routine and, figure
mhm,
out a gym to join and all of that because it was
yeah,
all in place and everyone in the community was so amazing. I think I may get emotional talking about it just because you all are what got us through those times. And it was like everyone was right there ready to help as soon as we were able to receive it, which was amazing. So already
well,
we were ahead of a lot of people that go through this just because
yeah.
everything was right there for us.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is really important. And that's part of community. But I also think that it's part of you and Harry have shown up so beautifully in this community and made a lot of connections. You're both just great people and generous and thoughtful. And it was easy to, people just wanted, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, we need to do something. It was like, what can we do? Everyone was like, people fighting over,
We
like,
felt it, and we definitely, weren't usually when people wanna help, you say, "No, no, no, I'm good." Well, we were in a
yes.
position where it was like, "Okay, like,
Yeah.
we'll we'll take all the help we can get," and it was
Yeah.
so helpful.
That is good, Debbie. I think that's something I'd like you to talk a little bit more about because I know that that was my concern, as we were having these side conversations. I'm like, Debbie's not gonna let Debbie's not,
Mhm,
she's in charge and she's gonna, but you didn't. You
yeah,
let people help you, and
mhm,
and that was probably really hard for you.
mhm,
And I know that there was. Do you want to talk a little bit about? It was a very hard year in general for the
yeah,
entire Wolin family. It's
mhm.
been a very hard year.
It has been. Hoping that, the rest of 2025 will be a little bit better, but I feel like sometimes life just comes at you hard. That happened to us this year, starting with, my slip on the ice, which was nothing compared to then what Harry went through.
But it was a lot. You couldn't
Well,
drive, you couldn't dress yourself, you
yeah,
couldn't wash your
yeah.
hair,
It
you
felt
couldn't
like
work
a lot.
out, which gives you grounded, and then Harry was having back issues at the
Yes.
time.
Mhm.
So, it was a very, very big deal. Just to share, I've forgiven myself, but she was at the studio. Harry and her often go to the 8:30 AM strength class on Saturday morning, and, the the energy was fine, like,
Mhm.
the parking lot was fine, but they had parked. It was a very crowded class, and they had parked over on the other side of the lot, and there was
Downspout,
um,
yeah.
what is it called?
Like a downspout.
Yeah, a downspout, and that was creating, a puddle, and that's where they parked, and there was ice, and Debbie
Mhm.
slipped, and Harry tried to help her, so the 2 and I'll never forget that message. I was, like, so upset and just, obviously, I don't want anyone to get hurt in a workout or outside a workout or driving to a workout. It's just my absolute worst nightmare, and you both just were so kind and, like, I don't know, it wouldn't surprise me because that's just who you guys are, but you could have handled the situation differently, and you didn't. You just were like, "Kelly, I just need to get back to my workouts." Like, that
Yes.
was your focus. You're like, "I don't, this happened.
Yeah,
Okay, I don't, I'm
yeah.
sure, I'm sure there was other feelings, but that's how you made me feel, and
Mhm.
I just wanna say that I'm very grateful for that, and it was a hard thing to know that you had gotten hurt coming out of the studio. Even though it wasn't on our part of the studio, it still
No, it
made me
was
feel
one of those
awful.
freak things that happens. So,
Yeah, yeah,
just one of
and
those,
then
yeah, one of those freak
yeah,
things.
yeah, and then you got better, and
Yeah, I was
that's
starting
when
to get better, and then Harry had the heart attack, and he needed the open heart surgery 4 days later, the triple bypass, so everything just happened so fast, so even when that happened, I was still, like, in a sling and not driving, and even the
oh, I
day
didn't
that it happened when we were in the ER and they said we need to transport him to go into the procedure he needed to go into that same day, I was thinking, "Do I need to call an Uber? Like, how am I gonna get there? Should I call a
oh,
friend?" And, they let me go in the transport, which was good, but it was just one of those things, like, it was just I was still not
yeah,
not myself, so, yeah, but then that issue became so secondary compared to what he
right.
was going through, and I was at a point where I was starting to get better. I think 2 weeks later, I started to be able to drive. So the kids were home and they drove when he was in the hospital. And then when they went back to school, then I started driving because then Harry couldn't drive for 12.
Wow.
He couldn't, I don't know if he explained to you, but he really couldn't use, and just because of the sternum that they cut open.
Mhm.
He couldn't use his arms like he was supposed to. I think they called it walking in a tube where his arms were supposed to stay by his side. He wasn't supposed to
Yeah,
pull anything, push anything. And that's where his squats really helped him getting up
yeah,
because you weren't supposed to push off getting up from a chair. So I was there, obviously
yeah,
to help him with everything that he needed
yeah.
help with. He was an amazing patient. Sure you're not surprised. He was
I'm not
a really
surprised.
good
I love
patient,
him.
and he took charge of, all of his medications. He came home from the hospital with 14 medications that he had to take at different times during the day, and it was really overwhelming, and he was good. He created a chart, he organized everything, which was really good, but then I was there to help with everything else that he
Physically, yeah,
Yeah.
where you just recovered.
Yes.
And what about the chair? What happened with the chair, Debbie?
The chair that he sits in. So he said, and he was right, he said, "I'm going to need one of those recliners because I just know that I can't, think of like when you lay in bed and then you have to get up, you just turn to the side and you have to push yourself out of bed, all the things." Like he just knew it was gonna make his life easier. And, if he had said that to me pre heart attack, I would have said, "No way, we're not having like an Archie Bunker recliner in our family room. Just not happening." But I couldn't say no, and he was
Yeah.
right, he needed it, and he put us like, the very last thing he asked before he went into surgery, he said, "It's gonna be a lot of time when I'm in surgery. Maybe you guys could research the chair." Um, something to do, and we were, of
You
course.
were getting that chair whether he made it out or not.
Well, he was like the one thing he asked, the poor man's having open heart surgery, but I couldn't research that at that time, and kinda mentioned it to
Debbie.
the kids, and everyone was upset, like, we couldn't focus on that, and so that was one thing he asked, like, post-surgery in the ICU, like, "What's the status of the chair?" And I said, "Well, we didn't, don't worry, we're on it. It'll be taken care of." And s
Harry's very funny.
Yeah.
He's very, very funny. I think he's one of the funniest people. It was just
The
I
chair
forgot there was a
happened, but
post.
that was the KBC community because, Shayna stayed up and she figured out the right chair, but then it had to be when it was, it had to be delivered right when he was coming home because he needed it when he came home, and then it needed to be put together. And I don't know how to do that, and I'm not handy. And so that's where the KBC community came in, and Marjorie.
Together.
Yeah, Scott Pratt came over and put it together
Oh,
when he
oh,
came home from the hospital. I was
that's
there
amazing.
to put it together, and I had messaged Marjorie and said, "Do you know if maybe you could see if anyone in the community could do this?" And she said, "Well, what about Scott Pratt?" And I said, "Oh, yeah,
She loves to
perfect.
volunteer, Scott Pratt.
Yes." And so,
That's amazing,
yeah,
Debbie.
yeah,
I love that, and I'm
yeah,
so proud of you for asking for help. I know that's
yeah.
hard,
I was
and
desperate.
yes, well, and yeah, and you had to worry about your
Mhm.
kids, even though they're older, they're still kids,
Mhm.
and, you had to worry about managing their emotions, and I know
Mhm.
Shayna has issues with medical, so it
Yep.
was like,
Mhm.
that was a whole 'nother thing,
Mhm.
and then you get Harry through everything, and then she has a huge
Yep.
surgery, and you have to go to Pittsburgh to help her.
Mhm. Yes.
And
Yeah, yeah.
that's when you almost cracked, right? You
Yes,
said,
that
"Kelly,
that
now."
maybe was the icing on the cake because she tore her labrum and needed hip surgery, and the timing of it was she needed to get it done before graduation because then she would be studying for the bar, and
Yeah,
recovering from hip surgery at the same time would have been too much, and
yeah,
she knew it, and it was just
mm,
one of those things where just had to happen, and we had to get through it. And we
yeah.
did, but I will say, like, the exercising and working out and the support of KBC helped with all of that. Sure, for sure.
Well, I'm so glad. That makes me really happy. I can't believe how long we've been talking,
I
actually.
know.
I was like, I'm just kind of getting to some of the questions I wanted to ask you. But the one I want to make sure to ask you, because it is the name of this podcast, and you don't really like to talk about yourself much, but in my eyes, you're just an incredible human being. I love the way you value your family. I love the way you value community, and you just have a great perspective, and you're just so fun to be around, and I really, really just appreciate you as a human, and I'm just curious if there's ever been a time in your life when you had to start before you were ready, other than being a caretaker for the 2025.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, actually,
maybe.
thank you for that's really kind of you, because that just means a lot to me coming from you because I admire you so much. And I think, when I answered the question when you asked me beforehand about a time I had to start before I was ready, it was when I made the change from, one county, from Fairfax County to Loudoun
Mhm.
County, which seems silly because I was doing the same job, but I've been
Yeah.
at the same school for 26 years and I was very
Mhm.
comfortable. And that was really hard for me. And I just had it in my mind what you always say in class, easy doesn't make you better.
Mhm.
And even though I'm in my mid 50s, it's going to be good for me to try something new and do something different and make new connections and figure things out. So, that was definitely a huge one for me. But since we've been talking today, for sure, what I dealt with this year, I
Yeah.
was not ready for any of
Yeah.
that, but I didn't have a choice. And I think a lot of people, of course, find themselves, I'm certainly not the only one who's dealt with a hardship in life, and nobody's really ready for that. But I
Yeah.
think some of the habits and routines, physical habits and routines that contribute to more mental strength helped me
Yeah.
through that. And then also the value of community because the community helped us through that. Definitely this winter was a lot of doing before I was ready and juggling all of that. But I mean, I think like so many of us, like I draw strength from the people around me and people in our community have been through some really hard times. And I think to myself, wow, look at them. And if they can do it and they're showing up and they have a smile on their face, like I can do it too. And I just
Yeah.
remember back when we were still at the lot early in the morning, and KK was going through what she was going
Mm.
through. And that was
Yeah.
maybe my first year of working out early in the morning before work. And I thought to myself, if she's coming here after going through what she's going through and showing up
Yeah.
at 5:30 in the morning with a smile on her face, I can do it too. And that's, I can say that over and over with so many different
Mhm.
people in our
Mhm.
community. So that's,
Yep.
gave me a lot of strength when I was faced with the challenges that I dealt with this winter, just in supporting my family, not just, for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. It's been really great to see the resiliency of so many people in our community and how they have attributed their healthy routine or their positive habits. And one of the things that KK said, so KK is Kristen Keim, and she was really my first experience of a friend having a serious disease. She was diagnosed with breast cancer 10 years ago. And it was very serious. It wasn't the good kind of breast cancer. There's no good kind of breast cancer, but she had a very, very aggressive breast cancer. And one of the things that she had said as she was sharing was it was important for her to keep working out, to keep coming out to the 5:40, this was 5:45 class
Mhm,
in the middle of the winter
mhm,
in the parking lot because she felt like if her kids saw her doing that, they would be less scared.
mhm,
'Cause that's what mom does. Mom goes out and works out in the morning, and if they saw her and this makes me emotional, but if they saw her keep doing that, then, I mean, that wouldn't they would think mom's gonna be okay. So,
mhm.
even though she was fighting for her life, literally, her concern was her kids' perspective of what they were seeing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that that is just a great example, Debbie, and we've had, as you've mentioned, countless examples of resiliency. We've had people come back after losing spouses, after losing
Mhm,
children, after battling disease, after losing parents, after losing and it is like, you do say to yourself, and I don't know if it's good or bad, it makes me feel better that as a counselor, you're using that as a mechanism because I do that a lot too, to
mhm,
just say, like, "They did it, Kelly, you can do it too."
mhm.
That's who you surround yourself with is
Right,
so important.
right, right. And then once, you do it, then you build resiliency because you know you can, and it helps you
Yeah.
for the next time.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so, so good, Debbie. I'm really glad that you shared that. That was really profound. Anything else you wanna say to our community?
No, just I mean, I say this all the time is that, KBC is my happy place. It's
Yep.
what I love most about living where I live, and I feel just so lucky to be a part of the community and have it at my disposal. Because it's helped me through, so much in my life, and so I'm so appreciative, and I wanna share it with everyone. Like, I definitely want others to experience it that aren't a part of the community because it's just what it's done for me and what I know, it's done for so many other people, so thank you. Um
Thank you.
Yeah. And
That
don't
feeling
move,
is
don't move,
very,
please
very
don't ever
mutual.
move. Or maybe
Yep.
if you do, I'll just go where you go. Yeah.
I like that idea, and I'm the same. I think we're the same. We're gonna be wherever our kids are.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
Wolins and Young, stay
Yes.
close, stay close.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you
Well,
for being on today. Thank you for your incredible insight, and thank you for what you do for our students for so many years, and how you show up as a mom and a community member and a wife. You're just a really special person, and I am honored to have you on this podcast.
well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I was honored to be on.
Yay! Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Start Before You're Ready. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might need a little motivation. Ready to start your own journey? Check out our workouts and nutrition coaching programs at kellysbootcamp.net. You can choose from in-person sessions or virtual programs. Set up a complimentary coaching session to get started. Follow along with me and the show on social media at Kellys_bootcamp. Until next time, this is Kelly Young reminding you that the best time to start is always now.